Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. M.N. Gupta, Emeritus Professor from Department of Biochemical Engineering and Biotechnology in Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi. Today we are going to talk on module Separation and Analysis of Lipids from paper Structure and Function of Biomolecules 2. By now it may be clear that even simple lipids like fats and oils, when initially obtained, contain a large number of other compounds and materials. Normally, such materials and compounds can be called contaminants. Similarly, complex lipids can also contain some other compounds and materials. We have already encountered this issue when we briefly discussed how lecithin preparations of different purity levels are utilized by different industries, and that example emphasized that for a particular application in a particular industry, for any lipid, we require a particular purity level, which is the minimum purity level. Separation means essentially separating the desired material from the unwanted materials, and so it's called purification. But how do we track a particular purification process? As you separate the unwanted materials or as you purify your desired lipid, you need to track the process. Is it working? To what extent a particular step is useful in separating unwanted materials? And so it makes sense that to be able to analyze right from the beginning at various stages of the purification or separation process, the analysis of the material, so it's very necessary and required, and invariably is an integral part of the separation and purification. So separation, purification and analysis go hand in hand. In other words, analysis is used to monitor efficiency of the purification methods. Analysis is also part of the quality control of the finished product. So we look at the analytical aspects first, which have to be in place actually, these protocols in any purification process, and then we will look at some various separation methods in general terms. So the objectives of this module are to learn about important parameters like Lovie bond color, iodine number, solid fat content and acetyl number, to learn about how lipids are isolated and purified, also to learn about isolation of vegetable oils, milk fats and fish oils, and to learn about analysis of lipids by HPLC, gas chromatography, etc. So the concept map is how do we do the quality control by various parameters in case of lipids? How do we isolate lipids and how do we analyze lipids? While all classes of lipids have their importance, fats and oils occupy a central place. The long chain fatty acids of fats and oils are also part of the other glycerolipids like many phospholipids. Hence, many parameters developed by oil industry and regulatory agencies to assess oil quality have wider applications. The number of double bonds are important, not just for fats and oils. As by definition, lipids are soluble in organic solvents. So, solvent extraction has been traditionally very important in the isolation and purification of lipids. For some classes of lipids, some specific protocols may be used. Here we will discuss only general methods. It may, however, be added that supercritical fluids have also been used in some cases. It is possible that with time we will see greener options like this emerging in this area in larger numbers. Let us start with the analysis of oils and fats. Oils or fats are obtained from natural sources. Whether the source is of plant or animal origin, the crude oil base is bound to vary in composition. So, separation or purification or refining protocols are designed to be robust enough to factor this in. Same goes for the analysis. Whatever method we follow should be able to take care of the interference from both known level and unknown levels of impurities. Not all analytical procedures can necessarily handle this even after running some controls. As edible oil industry is a mature industry, methods for determining every considerable parameter have been developed. Professional organizations who have developed standard methods include American Oil Chemist Society (AOCS), the Association of Official Analytical Chemists (AOAC), and the American Society for Testing Materials (ASTM). For illustrative purposes, let us look at the routine quality control tests which are carried out for soybean oil. More or less similar tests are carried out for other edible oils. As you can see from this table, these tests include Lovie-Bound color, iodine value, refractive index, free fatty acid content, soap in oil, solid fat index, phospholipids in oil, and many other parameters. Let's define Lovie-Bound color. Vegetable oils as oils of plant origin are called in the industry. These vegetable oils, when extracted, are colored. Carotenoids and chlorophylls are the main pigments, but many other compounds also contribute, and their composition and identity varies from oil to oil. Lovie-Bound color measures it's an index, it's a parameter, and it measures the red and the yellow colors mostly. In this method, a 52.5 inches column of the oil or the melted fat is used as the sample, and its color compared in a tintometer against red and yellow Lovie-Bound color glasses. These glasses are calibrated according to the American Oil Chemical Society tintometer color scale. Worldwide, British standard 684 is used as a color scale. Oils which are dark and contain impurities of colors other than red and yellow are unsuitable for measurement by this method. Olive oil, soybean oil, particularly if it is extracted from green beans, canola oil contain enough chlorophyll to often impart green color to these materials. In many cases, if polyphenols are present, oils generally develop brown color and it is difficult to get any reliable estimate. The obvious solution is to develop spectrophotometric methods, but no standard has been developed so far. Fat Analysis Committee of American Oil Chemical Society has provided various standards and the best match is determined. Drying oils are generally graded by Gardner scale, which uses 1963 glass standards based upon solutions of inorganic salts. The scale reads 1 for the lightest color and 18 for the darkest color. Iodine value is also called iodine number. This reflects unsaturation in the fatty acid composition. Most double bonds of fatty acids react quantitatively with Br2 or IBr at room temperature in acetic acid or methanolic solution. The quantity of halogen remaining can be measured iodometrically. Amount of iodine in gram which is required to react with 100 gram of lipid is called its iodine value or iodine number. The iodine number of saturated fatty acids obviously is 0. Oleic acid, linoleic acid and linolenic acids have iodine numbers of 90, 181 and 274 respectively. Iodine numbers can also be more quickly obtained by measuring refractive index and correlating that value with standards of known iodine numbers. As refractive index changes with temperature, refractometers with temperature control must be used for these measurements. Another important parameter is titration equivalent weight. This parameter estimates the average molecular weight of the fatty acids present in the oil. Titration of alcoholic solution of fatty acid mixtures with standard alkali using phenolphthalein as an indicator determines the endpoint. Mean molecular weight is equivalent to the milligram of fatty acid divided by milli equivalent of alkali used. Another parameter is acetyl number. Acetyl number estimates the presence of free OH groups in the fat or oil of fatty acid. Acetic anhydride is used to acetylate all such groups. Acetyl number then is the number of milligram of KOH required to neutralize acetic acid obtained from 1 gram of acetylated samples. Solid fat content, normally called simply as SFC, or solid fat index, sometimes abbreviated as SFI, are two other useful parameters. This is particularly so if the intended application of the fat requires plasticity. Margarine and shortening are two such end products. SFI uses dilatometry, which measures volumes at series of temperatures 10 degree, 21.1, 26.7, 33.3 and 40 degrees centigrade. Solid fat content is measured by pulsed nuclear magnetic resonance. Free fatty acid content represents the amount of free fatty acids present in the lipid. This is simply determined by titration with a standard alkali. FFA analysis of a refined oil indicates the efficiency of alkali refining and deodorization steps in the refining process. High FFA content in a frying oil lowers the smoke point of the oil, which is an undesirable trait. As mentioned elsewhere, if the oil is to be used for production of esters with alkali as a catalyst, formation of soaps becomes a hindrance. In fact, soap analysis measures the soap formed by titrating with alkali. This not only measures how much alkali refining has succeeded, it also reflects upon the efficiency of water washing step in the refining process. Alkali refining consists of continuous mixing of sodium hydroxide solution of a known concentration with the crude oil at 65 to 90 degrees centigrade temperature range. Soap coagulates with formation of water phase, which is called soap stock, and a refined oil phase. Centrifugation generally does not remove all soap and other impurities from the oil phase. Hence, this oil phase is washed with hot water and centrifuged again. The mixing time of alkali with caustic solution is generally 3 to 10 minutes at 20 degree to 40 degree centigrade temperature range. The temperature is quickly raised to separate coagulated soap. In some countries in Europe and elsewhere, an alternative short mix method is used. Here the mixing is only for 1 to 15 seconds at 80 degree to 90 degree centigrade temperature range. This process is often repeated to remove all free fatty acids. Water washing can be done once or twice and can even be carried out in countercurrent mode. Economics and the equipment availability decide some of these choices. Often, alkali refining is preceded by treatment with phosphoric acid to deal with non-hydratable phosphatides which are present in some oils including soybean and canola. The source of the lipid material to be extracted can be an animal tissue, plant tissue, or even microbial. Nevertheless, isolation of lipid follows some common approaches and common concerns. It is advisable to keep the sample at low temperature. Less than minus 25 degrees centigrade is a good choice, and in an oxygen free or inert atmosphere. The lipids containing unsaturated bonds, as we know, are prone to oxidation. For the same reason, butylated hydroxytoluene, that is BHT, is added in the range of 1 to 10 milligram per liter of the extracting solvent. Extraction with the organic solvents is invariably the first step in lipid isolation. Keeping the temperature low also minimizes damage to the lipids by enzymatic or non-enzymatic routes. This is especially important for plant tissues which are rich in both polyphenols and polyphenol oxidases. It must be remembered that even in the frozen form, enzymatic degradation cannot be totally stopped. This is best appreciated by recollecting that even frozen food have shelf life. Some of the approaches which have been tried for inactivating endogenous enzymes are exposing the tissues to boiling water or steam or even microwaving the sample. The solvent chosen for extraction depends upon the nature of the lipid to be extracted. Generally, mixture of solvents rather than a single solvent is tried. Extracting with CHCl3, CH3OH and water in the proportion of 1 to 2.0 to 0.4 is reported to extract practically all kinds of lipids. The amount of water present in the sample should be factored in while preparing the solvent mixture. These solvents mixed as above form a single phase mixture. The lipid material is homogenized in the above solvent mixture. Phospholipids etc. which are more polar in nature can partition into the water phase. This can be avoided by using salt solutions at all the steps in place of water. The chloroform phase is dried by treatment with anhydrous sodium sulfate. The solvent chloroform thereafter can be removed by evaporation by any of the usual devices. Selective extraction of neutral lipids from the dried mass can be carried out by extraction with cold anhydrous acetone. This extraction procedure does not extract phospholipids. Dry acetone of low water content is available from good vendors. This low water grade acetone can be further dried by placing over molecular sieves. As has been mentioned before, some free fatty acids are always present in a fat or oil. These fatty acids can be isolated by treating the tissue or liquid extract by dilute alkali. Both aqueous and methanolic solutions have been used. Most of the vegetable oils are obtained by mechanical processing and or extraction from seeds or by pressing of fruits like olive or olive palm. Among the solvents for solvent extraction, hexane is invariably used. Hexane is considered a volatile organic compound (VOC) which hurts the ozone layer. However, despite numerous efforts, industry has failed to find a good substitute for hexane. From time to time, some greener options like aqueous oil extraction and aqueous enzymatic oil extraction have been tried. Adequate improvement in these methods by assistance from microwaves and ultrasonication have also been reported. Economic considerations and reluctance of the industry to invest in development of these greener options have contributed to hexane being continued to be used in the oil industry. The milk lipids contain about 97% triglycerides and a small amount of phospholipid and sterols which originate from membranes of the milk fat globule. Over 400 different fatty acids are detected in the milk fat with estimated number of triglycerides in thousands. Oxo and hydroxy fatty acids present in milk fat are responsible for forming flavoring ketones, aldehydes and lactones. Short chain fatty acids released if fat globules are damaged during processing and in transfer through pipelines cause the unpleasant smell in raw milk. Obtaining milk fat involves separation of fat globules, churning and aggregation of fat globules, separating the buttermilk and stabilization of water in oil emulsions. Milk fat is liked because of its high and pleasant organoleptic sensations like flavor and texture. Fish oil is mostly a byproduct of fish meal industry. It is produced by passing steam over raw fish. The oil is separated from water. Fish oil is known for high degree of double bonds, more than 50 different fatty acids of the C14 to C24 range, and above all for the presence of omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. Fish oils contain unsaponifiable lipids like sterols, hydrocarbons, glyceryl ethers, pigments, vitamins and oxidized oil. Industrially, fish body oil and fish liver oil is distinguished. Cod and pollock have large livers and are sources of liver oils. In other cases, it is the fish flesh which is the source of the oil. When required as an ingredient or supplement like omega-3 fatty acid, it is refined by processes similar to vegetable oils, that is neutralization of free fatty acids, bleaching, winterization and deodorization. Silica gel as a chromatographic media has been widely used for analysis of lipids. TLC, low pressure liquid chromatography, and HPLC formats have exploited the differences in the number and nature of the polar functional groups in lipids. Silica as a medium has silanoyl groups which can be free or hydrogen bonded. Silica has layers of water of hydration. To ensure variability, the absence of variability in results, it is necessary to remove all but very tightly bound water layer. This dictates choice of the solvent for running the column. Reversible damage to silica columns can occur if polar impurities accumulate. In such cases, the column should be washed with a negative gradient of polar solvents. Solvents containing water at pH less than 2 or greater than 7.5 can also dissolve the silica from the surface and would irreversibly damage the column. In the normal phase chromatography, silica can be bonded with some organic moieties like diol, nitro, nitride and alkyl or aryl cyano. Such bonded phases are known to decrease tailing of the peaks. It should be noted that even such columns do contain variable amounts of silanol groups which remain and contribute to the separation process. In all HPLC methods, the choice of the detector is based upon not only the compounds to be separated, but also by the choice of eluting solvents. UV detectors are useful if the lipid contains conjugated double bonds or aromatic rings or oxidized lipids as a result of hydroperoxidation. Derivatization techniques like benzoylation of glycolipids or converting fatty acids to aromatic esters have been used to make UV detection possible. RI detectors and evaporative light scattering detectors are of more general use. For volatile or low boiling point lipid samples, GC is a convenient and frequently used technique. Again, silica is the material. Fused silica narrow bore column, 0.1 to 0.3 millimeter internal diameter, 25 to 100 meter in length, with inner walls coated with the liquid phase is used. The distribution coefficient of the lipid molecules between the liquid phase and the carrier gas dictates the separation. The molecules partitioning to the gas phase travels with the gas down the column. Depending upon the differences in partition coefficient, different materials emerge out of the column at different retention times. The parameters which influence retention times are nature and flow rate of the carrier gas, column dimensions, column temperature and thickness of the liquid phase. Of these, the column length is less important as resolution is proportional to the square root of the length. Many non-volatile molecules can be derivatized and converted into more volatile substances. Again, silation chemistry is widely used for this purpose and various silylation reagents are commercially available. In the reverse phase liquid partition chromatography, the stationary phase is non-polar and the mobile phase is relatively polar. This makes this mode of HPLC very valuable for separation of various lipid molecules of similar kind or class. Some of the detectors used in GC are flame ionization detector, electron capture detector, especially used for halogen containing lipids, mass spectrometers. Actually, GCMS has emerged as powerful even in lipid analysis. Chain length of the fatty acid component and the number of double bonds present in the chain decides the distribution coefficient of a particular molecule between the two phases. Binding of the lipids to the column involves London forces, polar dipole induced dipole, dipole dipole, and proton acceptor proton donor interactions. The stationary phase for lipids most frequently used are chemically bonded long chain hydrocarbons to spherical silica particles of 3 to 10 micrometer dimensions. The most common is the so-called C18 or the octadecyl silyl column. For most lipid separation on such a column, acetonitrile or methanol is mixed with another modifier solvent. The latter is decided on the basis of nature of the lipid which is being separated. The modifier organic solvent mixed with either acetonitrile or methyl alcohol solvates the chain bonded to the silica. This stretches the chains. Solvents like tetrahydrofuran, which has a low dielectric constant, results in the formation of a kink in the chain. So the solvent composition decides how much the chains are extended or are in kinks or Gaussian form. Ion exchangers have also been used in separation of phospholipids. Again, silica bonded with amine groups which forms anion exchanger, or sulfonic acids which form cation exchangers have given good results. Organic solvents used in the mobile phase change the nature of the chromatography to mixed mode chromatography as adsorption and partition processes come into the play. Another useful method in some cases is silver ion chromatography. This is a complexation chromatography in which silver ions are part of the stationary phase. This is also called argentation chromatography. The technique is particularly useful in lipid analysis. Silver ions interact with pi electrons of double bonds to form a polar complex. A lipid with larger number of double bonds obviously forms a stronger polar complex and is retained on the column move firmly. These are essentially charge transfer complexes in which the carbon atoms with double bonds are donors and silver ions are acceptor of electrons. The free olefinic bond and complexes are in dynamic equilibrium during the chromatographic process. In thin layer chromatography, silica gel is impregnated with silver nitrate molecules. The same approach can also work in SPLC. However, a more robust approach is to have silica bonded with a moiety like phenyl sulfonate residue. The resulting ion exchanger binds silver ions. As a result of steric factors, a double bond in the cis configuration forms a more stable charge transfer complex with the silver ion. The relative position of the double bonds, if present, also matter. The most stable are chelates formed with double bonds separated by two methylene groups. Conjugated double bonds result in a less stable complex of the lipid molecule with silver ion. Olefinic bonds form stronger complexes than acetylenic bonds. The complex stability is more at lower temperatures. The technique has been extensively used for separation of even simple fatty acid mixtures. It is also useful for separation of triglycerides. To summarize, in this module we learnt about important parameters for lipids, isolation and purification of lipids, isolation of vegetable oils, milk fats and fish oils. We also learnt about analysis of lipids. There is a whole area called lipidomics which deals with lipids, isolation, analysis, production and quality control. What we have discussed is just a broad overview to illustrate the kind of concerns which are there in the actual isolation, separation and analysis of lipids. Today GC-MS, capillary electrophoresis MS, and many such hyphenated techniques are available which allows one to analyze lipids in detail. Industry, however, goes by the established standards, and hence the classical parameters are still important and worth knowing. Thank you.